You're going ahead.
Terribly go back a short time, but, you know, he came in from St. Louis, he played guitar with me, put some music together. And, real quick, the movie this started out when I was studying acting with, I wanted to study with Al Pacino's coach when I first started acting. And what happened was that, you know, I was a drummer, and they come up with something called the drum machine back in the 80s. And the music scene was really changing in New York City at that time. And I needed to find something to do with my life, and I stumbled across an acting class, and I started studying acting. And then as I started getting into it, I had a passion for it, and there was the one teacher that said that I had a chance to do something with my career as an actor. So I pursued it, really because I didn't have much else to do with my life. And I decided that I wanted to. I started watching movies, really good movies with Al Pacino, De Niro, Hope Greenwich Village, and I wanted to study with Al Pacino's coach. I was Charlie Lawton. He was teaching down at the Lee Strasberg Theater Institute. And, you know, we got into it, and I always wrote. I was a writer. I was taking screenwriting courses and so on and so forth. And one night I went into, they had a play. I think it was Bridget Fonda and an actor by the name of Billy Otis. They were doing a play in Strasbourg, and it was two characters. And, you know, and I saw that play, and I was like, wow, this is really great. You can tell a story. You don't need a big budget. You don't need lights. You don't need any of that stuff. And then Anna Strasbourg brought in a playwright from London, Stuart Brown, and we started writing our own stuff. And when we started writing our own stuff, I came up with this semi-autobiographical story, and he liked it. And it, you know, I had a knack for dialogue. I was good for dialogue. And she put it on as a work in progress. And the story is a drummer and a guitar player in New York City, 1986, crossroads of their lives. They got to make a decision. And it's that California dream. You know, back then, it was like, you want to go to California. You know, everybody got the California dream, especially back then. You know, I don't know about now so much, but it was like, you know, what's out there? Head west, young man. And it's about this kid. He's at the crossroads of his life, and he has to make a decision. And it's the two friends. And so we did it as a work in progress, and it went over really well. I played Danny, the drummer. I think the actor who played Danny is here someplace. You here? There he is. He's got a beard now. He's incognito. Did a terrific job, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. And then, and it went off Broadway, and I played Danny again, and that's where Joy Todd was a casting director. She was casting a movie with Sylvester Stallone called Lockup. And I ended up getting a chance to read for the movie, and I ended up, now that was my California dream. I'm with Sylvester Stallone. And you know, the business is, Paul, you know what the business is. Anybody that's in the business, how it goes, there's ups, there's downs. And we ended up, I was playing softball with Pete. Pete actually invited me to go play softball in Malibu, remember? And the pitcher, well, Boom Boom Mancini was on the team, the Aiellos, Lenny Turbo, James Russo, right? Larry Parker was financing it. It was a law firm that was financing us.
Jay Roach.
Jay Roach went on to write Meet the Parents. He was the shortstop. And John Martin was the pitcher. He says, oh, I heard you got a really good play that was in New York. I have a theater out here that's looking for material. And we gave the play to them, and they said, we want to put this on. And we went about casting it, and that particular production, I played Mikey, which was the guitar player. Walt Woodson played the drummer. And that's when I had an agent by the name of Darryl Marshak, and he was integral in getting a lot of actors, I won't mention names, that their careers put them in the right direction. He wasn't so interested in getting us on TV shows where we would get perpetual income. He wanted to see us as artists. And he turned me on to Jim Jarmusch movies, My Dinner with Andre, movies like that, and I started to really get into that stuff. And that's when the idea to make it a movie came about. And, you know, then of course, they wanted rewrites, rewrite. It went full circle, and it got shelved. And of course, my career took off in different places with some movies and TV shows, and time goes on, life comes on. And then finally, we brought it full circle. We did a reading in Los Angeles, and then we were able to get some money behind it, and we started to cast a movie here in New York City. And, you know, I was in on every casting session, And it was a time when we should draw back to when actors actually came into the room and read, not going on tape. I think that's a bunch of nonsense. And that has to stop, and I think as actors we have to put our foots down. Because you go on tape, you're actually producing for them, who knows if they even watch it. And you know, I'm over there reading with these actors and I'm able to work with them and so on and so forth. And Ilya had come in for the part, and originally I wanted to cast actors that actually played the instruments. So there was another actor who played the drums. Actually, the kid that plays Mikey, the actor who plays Mikey, he read for Danny. And when I went home and watched the tape, I said, you know, he's Mikey, he's not Danny. And I knew right away that's how it was going to be. And the actor that I cast as Danny, he says to me, I said, we have rehearsal. He says, well, I can't do it. I said, why can't you come to rehearsal? He says, I planned the trip to Aspen to go skiing with my father. To which right then and there I wanted to fire him. Because I would have just a guest spot on a TV show. I'd be afraid to get off the couch and I'd twist my ankle. You're going skiing, you gotta roll like this. But they didn't allow me to fire him. Then it happened again, like about 6-7 days, about 6-7 days before shooting. Yeah. And I was like, well, there's no way we could do this movie with this kid. And they allowed me to fire him. And Enid Alvarez, who's a producer on the movie, and she also plays Diana, she was pointing him out. She actually had his picture on the wall. She was really the one, bro. You know what I mean? I mean, I didn't forget about you, but she was like, that's the one, that's the one. And I think you remember when we came out to see you, where you were working in a bar in Brooklyn, and we brought you the script, and like 5 days before we start shooting, I got this kid, this actor that's got to learn how many pages of dialogue?
117 pages.
117 pages of
Look
dialogue.
at your counting.
Where, yo, every night Larry came down, we were in the village. I sat there with Ben Sauter, the other actor, and we were just studying lines like a plan. We just run lines and lines. They would come in, we'd be there from like midnight till 5 a.m. and just running them and keeping his coffee, and they was coming in his direction. We yelled at 5 days before him, man. Bless you, brother.
Yeah, and he was there, and we had a little stress, and we shot in the bowels of the Bronx. There was shootouts.
There was a shootout.
And the producers that we had didn't get permits. We'd go to shoot, and the park ranger in Claremont Park would be like, what are you doing here? We're shooting a movie, where's your permit? They didn't have permits. And Pete Antico, like I said, is a dear friend of mine for many moons. He has vast experience doing stunts. I guess you doubled De Niro, right? He's done a lot of stuff, stunt work. And I always wanted to work with him as an actor because I know him. And Chuck Zito, I know him too as well. And I wanted Chuck to play the father, and him to play the bouncer, the guy, the bar owner. The producers and everybody were like, no, you need Chuck for the bouncer. I said, no. This is the way you gotta go. And it worked out, I think it worked out great because there's some action scenes, Pete helped coordinate that, so on. And we shot it in 15 days, and there was days that we didn't get to shoot because there wasn't permits, and the truck showed up 4 hours late on day one, the truck showed up late. And we were all hanging in there, so it's like, and people that aren't here, Maria Matakis, who I went to high school with, she did the hair, she was there every day like a trooper. She would work at her shop at the New York Jungle, she would come down to the set. And when I'm talking about, we was in some of the roughest neighborhoods in the Bronx. And we got it on as a crew, and the cast, and everybody brought it. And it was passion, and then as we went on, there was other things that I'm not allowed to talk about. But I ended up catching hold of the movie. I got hold of it. I got possession of it, and legally, and then my other friends kicked it in. My friends in Los Angeles who did a cut, did an edit. This one did the color correction. This one did this. And 10 years later, you're gonna get to see this movie that we went through what we had to go through to make it. And, it was. Johnny Black, who came down 164th, and that was Enid again because the production designer was doing graffiti on the wall in the Bronx, which we didn't have permits to do that either. And we're like, no, this ain't working. It's called Johnny Black. He came up.
I'm in the South Bronx bombing during the day.
That was you're in heaven. That's your thing.
Like, this is great, and you're asking, this is nice.
Yeah, he's in there like 5 minutes. Him in there, boom, 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 take the whole joint up. And in the main character's bedroom, he's so on and so forth. And we got Robert Cohesi, Chuck Zito, and Chuck brought it once again. Chuck's known for playing the tough guy and all of that stuff, but I saw other sides of Chuck that we were able to bring out. And that was due to like my experience with actors working on my productions. And no, I'm not in the movie. I'm off camera line, but that's it. I didn't want to be in a movie. Because in reality, there's so many great actors out there that need a shot. I already had my shot. And I'm not saying I don't want to act again, I do, but for this particular project, Pete did a great job. You know, he got a great scene, Chucky did a great scene, Anthony Mangano, Victor Williams from the King of Queens, Ari Ravine, I could go on, I'm probably gonna miss a few names, but, and Semi Guzman. So, and it's not about, you know, the Italian-American thing, there is an overtone to it, but it's the Bronx, and it is a melting pot. And we cast it wasn't like we did diversity casting because we had to, because that's what the story would tell. I didn't grow up in a 100% Italian neighborhood. I grew up with a lot of mixed people, and that's what the story's about. That's what the people in the movie are about. So, yeah, great, man. Thank
I want to say as an artist or as an actor, it's great to work with somebody that is an artist, that is an actor, that understands dramaturgy, that understands conflict, that understands story, because when you're speaking the words they wrote, you know, it's very easy to embody, you know, good writing, and it's the most important. And this is a very, very literate script. And I've worked on, you know, over 400 films and television shows, and I have to tell you, not a lot of them are very, very literate. I might say 5%, you know, maybe 7.5% of all things. That's why you're seeing the migration out of these $150 million movies that nobody wants to see. They're going to go back to, you know, My Left Foot, you know, and stories, you know, like the Blackboard Jungle, the old film, The Bold, the Bad, and the Beautiful. Everybody studies film, but if you're going to look at movies that they have going on today, they don't make many films that raw stuff like Mean Streets, or they're taking you Pelham 1, 2, 3, or Circus, or Burt Lancaster movies. So I think the old way is going to be the new way. That's it.
Thank you for your patience up there. Appreciate you guys. Right on, man. Rock and roll.